This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
From the Omni in Egan at the spring NFL meetings, here comes Lavelle Neal III, columnist for the Star Tribune, at Lavelle Neal via the tweet machine. More on the Timberwolves coming up soon, but we have a bevy of either denials or rules that have been changed in the NFL that have taken place over the last 30-some-odd minutes. And we welcome Lavelle to the conversation. What's going on, my man?
All is well, sir. Thanks for having me.
Hey, just quickly, are the Twins going to play a triple-header today? Finish Monday, play the rained-out bit from yesterday, and then actually play today's game?
It would be fun. It would be a first, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll be happy just to get through today without any more delays. The third game of the series, which technically was supposed to be played today, will be rescheduled as a doubleheader September 20th, which is a meaty time in the schedule because that game could that doubleheader could mean something going down the stretch here.
Let's handle the spring league meetings portion of the equation. From playoff seeding to onside kicking to tushy pushy. What's going on, Nordo?
Yeah, well, let's start with the playoff seeding in particular because it sounds like that was something that never even made it to the voting table. But I'm sure you've been following this, Lavelle. It started with the Lions, and then they ultimately pulled the proposal, the idea of kind of de-weighting the division championship and seeding based on record. So ultimately, the 7-8-1 team or 7-9-1 team doesn't get to host a playoff game anymore just because they won the ratty NFC South or NFC West. We can use the Vikings not hosting the Rams in the wild card last year as an example. But that ultimately did not make it to the table, and it sounds like Intel is indicating that they already knew kind of in advance that there wasn't going to be enough overwhelming support to push that thing over the finish line. You cool with how things played out? Ultimately, now it's going to move forward. The 7 playoff teams will be decided, as they always have been, the 4 division winners, and then wild cards based on record.
No, you can't control how a division is going to play out from year to year. And there should be some value to winning your division and benefiting from that. So just because there's a year or two where you may have a division that has 3, maybe 4 teams 500 or better, and have a year where the division winner is like 9-8 or whatever. It's possible. But each season stands on its own, and in most cases, a division winner is going to have a respectable record, and I think that's the wise move to make.
Florio from PFT on this topic brought up something interesting earlier, an hour and change ago, and it was about if you're going to keep it the way it is.
Yep.
Teams, the schedule matters here with the competition and conference games and stuff.
Yeah, he hit a home run with it, and Florio made this point, and I'm with him 100%. 17-game schedule, we know that's what it is. But if you're going to take away the value of the division title, then in some ways you have to eliminate the idea of playing your division rivals twice in a season. Because if we are talking about fairness, and that's ultimately the idea of putting records valuing above most, then the NFC North a year ago and the bloodbath that was at times, given 3 out of the 4 teams very good, versus the NFC South, or in some cases, with the Giants being as bad as they were in the East, things like that, then you have to eliminate. You can't play the Packers twice in a year anymore, and then the Bears and the Lions, and have the unevenly weighted schedule. So from my standpoint, Lavelle, if you're going to take away the division title as being so important in hosting a playoff game, the schedule becomes the A topic in terms of you're going to play every single team in the NFC every single season. And then what you do with that's 15 games. What you do with the other 2, do you do rotating rivalry games? Hey, every 2 years we get the Packers twice, etc. But you have to re-rig the schedule then, so that every team in the NFC is playing every single opponent in the NFC to then, get yourself as close as possible to being fair.
I'm nowhere near being close to being on board with something like that. I think the NFL benefits from these regional rivalries and these division rivals.
I do too.
You see the fans that travel within our division, from Chicago to Green Bay to Detroit and Minnesota. The AFC North, they all hate each other.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's great for the league.
It's history, it's fabric, it's all of that. Now, what I will say, though, is if you are going to take away the division title as meaning something, you would have to go away from that. If there was a league that could still continue to thrive, don't you think it'd be the NFL, though? I mean, in the long run, we've seen the NHL trying to, in some ways, manufacture rivalries in the postseason and such. You got the 2 and 3 seed division teams playing each other in the playoffs. The NBA divisions, I bet you there's a fair number of fans that don't even know what division the Wolves are in, because ultimately in the end you're thinking about the top 8, etc. If there was a league, I feel like, given the weight, so few games, the NFL could still find their way to a healthy payday if they did eliminate some of that rivalry stuff.
Well, you brought up an interesting point because of the NBA, NHL, and the fact that 8 teams from each conference get in. No, I can't. I think you're right. I may not be able to name all the divisions in the NHL just because of the 8 factor. That's why I think the NFL has a fair system. The only thing I wonder if you could tweak about the playoffs if you reseed after the first round and set things up like that. That would be a way of. It'll be predicated on the Vikings winning in the first round, which they couldn't do last year. But after that, maybe you can reset the board there where you have more equitable matchups.
The playoff seeding conversation, interestingly, was triggered by Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver for the Lions. It was into or after they beat the Vikings. It had to be after, where he was asked about, hey, you beat them, but this team won 14 games. And he's like, yeah, it's ridiculous that team with those wins goes on the road, plays a team with fewer wins. So that was from Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of jump-starting that earlier this year.
Every year's weird, man. You're going to have years like that when you have 2 powerhouse teams, and you're going to have a year where everybody's mediocre. You can't legislate around that.
Now, Lavelle, you were telling me when you came in, you got your coffee, and it's like, Nordo, don't, no spoilers, but I had trouble sleeping last night because I was worried what they were going to do about onside kicks in 2025.
Oh, God.
And I saw this. So the rule has been changed in some ways back to some originality of it, but in the end, the idea is, I believe last year, you could only do an onside kick. You have to declare it. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. Secondly, then, you can only do it in the fourth quarter if you're trailing. The change that I'm seeing, a couple of things here. First of all, at any point if you're trailing, you can do an onside kick.
But you have to declare it, right?
You have to declare it.
Yeah.
But then the other end is they've set it up now where the kick will go from the 34-yard line. The players will line up at the 35-yard line. They believe this idea will allow for a higher success rate. I'm reading this from PFT.
At 1 yard?
That's
what?
That's the idea, or what the conversations were that took place. They note that just 6% of onside kicks were successful in 2024. So
I wonder what team. There was a team in the NFC North that successfully recovered an onside kick, wasn't there?
Who?
Or was the Bears?
Ball down. Chicago
wasn't it the Bears against the Vikings?
I think
because it went off of Johnny Munt's leg.
Oh, goody! Oh, that's right.
On. Why are you bringing that up, Lavelle? I fell right into that trap trying to remember that.
Yeah, man. Additionally, the alignment for an onside
you baited
kick
yourself instead of baiting me
has also changed, as the kick will go from the 34-yard line. And players will line up at the 35-yard line.
So we get an extra yard to run.
Yeah.
How about that? Mm-hmm. Watch your legs.
I wish they do something. I wish we keep tweaking the kickoff situation because I like to see kickoff returns.
Me too.
Well, I don't. Again, if you're talking about success, and the idea of declaring it is ridiculous, and then the idea that I believe you have to be even on both sides, right?
Yeah.
It's 5 on a side, et cetera, with the kicker. I like and again, all of this, whether it's you put the two opposing lines on kickoff returns and they're only 5 yards apart. We want to mitigate two opposing forces running head on into each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want actual success and some chaos, again, making a feeling of an irrelevant play and make it relevant, make it interesting, make it an action play. Load it up. I want to see 10 guys on one side and see some weird scrums again.
Right. Well, see, you're pro concussions.
Yes.
We've had this conversation.
I've been saying it for a year. I'm very, very pro head trauma. It's true. Yes, I always have been.
Okay. Anything? Oh, the tush push.
Well, that's
the tush push lives.
That's the news of the day. We had Alec Lewis over here showing us Rossini tweets. It was kind of expected. I felt the vibe that this thing was done. I thought the tush push was dead, and the Eagles are kind of alone on an island. Jason Kelsey, of course, future HOF center, former Eagle. He was here or is here somewhere at the Omni, but at some point he made his case lobbying to support the tush push, and the owners could not get on the bad side of it. And the tush push remains, gentlemen. The tush push will stay in place. And I saw the Lions, the Ravens. There were a couple other teams that were noted from Schefter among teams that actually supported the Eagles, but they couldn't get
Packers,
over.
Right?
Yeah, the Packers. Well, the Packers were.
They wrote the legislation.
They wrote the league to ban it.
They introduced the legislation, didn't they?
But ultimately, the Packers and those that wanted to see this thing go away, they couldn't get over the 24 owner hump to officially ban it. So the tush push remains.
I was going to ask, is 24 out of the 30 blah blah owners? Okay.
Yeah. The proposal got 22 yes votes.
Oh wow.
And 10 no. So it got close.
It did.
I mean, it was 22 owners were like, ban the tush push. But you need 24, man, so it got close.
I was wondering because they could very easily have reverted back to the league rule from 25 or 30 years ago, which said that you cannot push or pull a player.
Right.
It could have been really
Couldn't
easy
assist
for them
the
to
runner, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it was Flory who said the last time that penalty was even called was like 30-some years ago.
91.
It's like a Bills playoff game or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where we're at. The tush push, I saw, is it Jordan Mailata, one of the O-linemen for the Eagles? He was mentioning, and I saw A.J. Brown, some audio from him. It's just a yard, guys. It's just a yard. But Mailata was even kind of, he was intimating the idea that, maybe we can, if you guys want to fool around with some of the intricacies, nuts and bolts of that play in general, specifically how low guys are going, the lineup, etc. That's one thing, but we're moving forward. However they decide at the owners' meetings, we'll adjust as we need to. But no adjustment required. The tush push remains in effect, and that is some of the hot button issues here that brought you to Egan today.
So we're gonna have a bit where we're gonna have a Washington Commanders bit where they're just gonna keep committing penalties on the tush push until forcing the referees. All right, we're just gonna award a touchdown.
Just kind of wear them out.
Yep.
I'm still not getting, and I'm probably missing something stark here. What the problem with the play is?
Yeah.
What's the problem with the play?
Well, the assisting the runner aspect would be
that would be the one.
You have A.J. Brown and Goddard behind you, and you're physically pushing someone forward.
Okay.
I kind of joked about it. You remember when we tried to do it with Kirk a couple of years ago, and we got Brandon Powell back there, tried to push people forward. It just didn't
the
look
Eagles
right.
have an elite offensive line, even without Kelsey. The fact the personnel I think matters. So the Vikings should be more tush pushable in 2025 with the revamped interior offensive line.
Well, it just feels, the tush push, the brotherly shove, however you want to frame it up, it just feels so punitive. We're this one team.
Yeah.
Every team has the ability to do this thing, and there's been so much. And again, the Eagles are really kind of a victim of their their massive lopsided amount of success with this, right? I think they're 85% to the good on just getting a yard with this thing. And instead of, we're going to drill down into the film and see how we can do it, see how we can improve the interior of our O-line and get some of those beef eaters the way that Howie Roseman and the Eagles have. It's like, no, we just need to ban the rule. And so in some ways I'm almost supporting the Eagles as a Vikings fan that I don't like doing that. But in some ways I'm like, no, I can't tear these guys down just because they're really good at something that we are not. So I'm kind of glad that it didn't pass.
I've said it before, and clearly there is probably a personal foul aspect in this that I'm missing. I think I brought it up with O'Connell on X's and O's before, and I can't remember what Kevin said. If you want to stop the tush push, then you take somebody off the edge, and their strict role to run around the offensive lineman and hopefully
attack the pushers.
Yes,
chop somebody.
I mean, right in the ribs. Yeah. I mean, here's the deal: you just stick them, and hey, if a flag went up, and you know what? If they deem it a personal foul, we've learned. But you start hitting the pushers, and they're going to stop pushing, or they're going to start looking left and right to see what's coming at them, and it may impact what they're doing. Nobody ever hits the pushers, man. And I think if you start sticking those pushers, that could slow everything down, but maybe it'd be a penalty. I don't know.
Interesting take.
Anything else?
That's everything that I've seen specifically from the owners' meetings. There's another headline I'm reading. The league had passed a rule that'll allow players to participate in flag football in the Olympics, which is pretty cool.
NFL and NFLPA.
They have not come together on it yet, though. And so that's kind of where we're at here.
JJ wants it.
And Egan and
JJ
Omni.
wants a medal.
Mm-hmm. Well, Caleb Williams, quarterback for the Bears, may want it too. But we wouldn't know, given he's refusing to talk to reporters at OTAs. Caleb, your quarterback refusing to talk to reporters at OTAs.
Well, why? Why do you think?
You tell me. What's he hiding?
Well, the book came out with him and his father discussing. That's
the bit.
Can we blow up Chicago so
that's the bit.
We can go to where we want to go?
But see,
he probably doesn't want to have to face the music on that one.
See, I
blame the father more than him.
Caleb wanted to play for the Vikings. That bit right there is, I mean, that's yesterday's news.
Didn't every quarterback that met with KOC came away impressed?
There was a meeting with all six of them that like was filmed or whatever, and from Bo Nix to Caleb Williams to Jaden Daniels to J.J. McCarthy, they all said, yeah, we'd love to play for this guy because he's smart, he throws a lot, and he has Justin. Mm-hmm. So that's just like dogs talking with each other, knowing it's not going to happen. And then that morsel right there has become a full chef salad, you know?
It has. It was just that the language that was used and the sentences that were spoken. I don't want to nuke Chicago. Yeah. Things like that. And like I said, parents do everything for their kids, even if it's illegal. And you get the father wanting to scheme like the Mannings did and other situations in the past. He was front and center of that bit.
I didn't realize, and I know he's a Super Bowl winner, perhaps a multiple Super Bowl winner. I haven't checked. Joe Thuney, new offensive lineman for the Chicago Bears.
Yep.
I mean, are we talking about Steve Hutchinson here? Are we talking about Randall McDaniel, maybe a new age Marshall Yanda? Because Joe Thuney hasn't even played a game, and he just got a 2-year extension from the Bears.
That was the plan when they traded for him. So that was communicated to him. I think Steve Hutchinson was a little younger when he came to the Vikings. Mm-hmm. I think Thuney's with 31, 32.
Yeah.
So
no, but I was joking that like Hutch is HOF, and I'm like, with Thuney, they trade for him. Mm-hmm. Which I loved. I loved the Bears trading for players before free agency.
They also signed Dahlman, the center. They did sign the center.
Not up to deal with the rigmarole of free agency. We're just going to make trades.
Right.
I thought it was brilliant. Thuney was one of them. But it's just strange, like you bring somebody into the covenant, now they're taking part in organized team activities, and you're like, okay, well, this is so right. We're just going to give you a 2-year extension, haven't even played a snap.
Yeah, but signing that extension allowed, actually his cap number drops by $7.5 million this year, this upcoming year. So by moving that money over to year 2 and 3. So, yeah, I thought it was a wise, shrewd move. I'm excited because we have finally addressed the middle of the offensive line, and apparently this kid, the 6'8" kid we drafted from Boston College, may end up starting at right tackle with the right tackle move over to left tackle and making Braxton the backup.
Is that Ozzy Trapilo?
Yes. whose father played in the NFL.
Is
apparently.
it Braxton Miller or Braxton Jones?
Jones.
Yeah, Braxton Jones. Who's the other guy? Rashid or
I think Wright. Was it Wright?
Darnell Wright.
Darnell Wright.
Yeah, Darnell Wright. Oh. Okay, so 6'8" Boston College guy would supplant. He then would supplant Darnell Wright. Correct.
And Wright wouldn't move to left tackle.
Oh, I see. Okay, so Braxton takes the L.
Okay. Yeah.
Crazy.
So they could have 4 new starters in our O-line in 2025.
Lavelle Neal III, columnist, Star Tribune, Omni Hotel, spring NFL meetings, 9 to noon. Some rule changes have taken place in the NFL, and we went over those. Timberwolves lose to OKC last night. Twins, we believe, will be playing later today. Doubleheader today?
They're going to resume. They're going to complete the suspended game from Monday, which I was at, and then play the regular scheduled game at about 2:30.
Okay. So, from a ticket standpoint, say you have tickets to the real game today, and then they do the suspended game first. Any idea if you get to go? Like
yes, you do get to go to both.
You do.
That was announced on Monday.
Interesting.
Yes. So if you do have a ticket to the 2:30 game, you can go early and watch the rest of game one. I'm curious to see how Rocco plays this. I don't know. I haven't seen the batting order. I haven't seen who's pitching. But to me, I think Chris Paddock was in line to start. I would actually bring Paddock in to complete the suspended game and see if he can go into the 8th inning, and then you have all your bullets to fire for the second game.
You can do that?
Yes.
So can you, from a pitching standpoint, say so-and-so was pitching, game suspended, does that guy doesn't have to come back, right?
No, you're going to have a different pitcher because that was Bailey Ober.
Yeah.
And today would be like his bullpen day. I don't think they would start Bailey. If this was like 20 years ago, I could see it happening. But the way pitchers are babied now and protected, I don't think they throw him back out there. I think you're going to see a different pitcher out there.
You were at the game on Monday, and with all due respect, I think it was an extreme leap of faith that they even started it. I mean, it's 2-1 Twins in what, the top of the 5th, bottom of the 4th?
Top of the 4th when it stopped.
Yeah, something like that. I thought it was a leap of faith with the weathercast and the radar and everything that they even started the game.
They knew what was coming on Tuesday, and they also knew there was some precipitation today, which I think is suspected to slow down now.
Yeah.
So they wanted to try.
Well, it's going to heat back up around dinner time, though. 5, 6, 7 o'clock. It's going to start coming down.
That's why that second game is going to start at about 2:30. You're going to try to see if they can get that one in. So they were worried about the weather the rest of the week. That's why they wanted to see if there was a window they can get this game in. Because they've been bitten by times when they've tried to that Cleveland, when they're in Cleveland and they waited 3 hours for a storm that never came. They kept a little under the weather. I apologize.
Tush push in your throat.
No doubt. So they were like, well, we got storms coming. And so the tarp was on the field. There was no rain. I had a friend who lives in Cleveland at the game screaming at me through text messages about this is ridiculous, and they waited 3 hours for the first pitch.
Well, your friend is the one that may need to be. His Guardians have lost 4 in a row and 6 of the last 8.
Yeah.
And this ballyhoot starting pitching needs to be better if they're going to get back in this thing, right?
Right. I think a little bit's been the offense. I think they've been struggling to score some runs here recently. So,
well, why'd they let Jimenez and or Josh Naylor leave? I mean, those were some dogs.
Let's see if I can remember. Naylor got traded to Toronto?
Yep.
That was when Toronto was trying to.
Naylor's Arizona.
Arizona. Okay, Toronto. Right. Because there were 2 Naylors. One's still on that team.
Bo.
Yeah, Josh got traded. I was at Target Field today that Josh tore up his knee, and I thought his career was over.
Wow.
He had a gruesome knee injury at Target Field. So I'm just happy he's back playing baseball. Yeah.
Cleveland ain't great.
You still have Jose Ramirez. You got a couple other bits who can hit. Stephen Kwan. I keep forgetting Kwan was on the same team with Trevor Larnach and Adley Rushman at Oregon State.
Wow.
They were on one squad.
Well, that's great.
That was the squad that the Gophers hooked in the NCAA tournament. When the Gophers had their last really good squad, they ran into Oregon State in the tournament.
Lavelle Neal III, columnist for the Star Tribune with 9 to noon at the Omni Hotel in Eagan. We will get back into the Timberwolves conversation around the corner. But first, Double B Brett Blakemore has the final cash thing for 9 to noon today.
The final cash thing, the fan at BigDeck.com. I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is win, with the Wolves going to do in Game 2. Keyword win, KFAN.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
Win.
The columnist, by following his Twitter at Lavelle Neal, he's just another who's all wound up over Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and the refs, and I'm not. And I saw everything that people saw last night. I also saw Julius Randle defend him beautifully, and there was contact the whole way, and SGA missed a shot, and there was no call. So hey, the fan has learned officiating in two of our favorite sports, NFL and NBA. I mean, in the NFL, I've said it before, with all due respect, it's the worst I've ever seen in my life. I mean, some of the elevations they're making when it comes to not the refs, but the officials, skipping certain levels where you got like certain refs that, they go 10 years in the Big Ten or 10 years at D2, D3 and 6 years in the Big Ten. And, then they're side judge guy, then they become ref. Mm-hmm. Is there a lot of elevations now to become officials in the NFL, side judge, umpire, things like that, where they're skipping steps that people have not skipped before, and they're elevating people who quite honestly aren't that good. The officiating in the NFL right now is as bad as I've ever seen it. Maybe that's the case in the NBA. I mean, maybe it's as inconsistent as anybody has ever seen. But I don't have the tweet in front of me, but one of your tweets last night was blow on SGA, and it's a foul.
I did point out later on too. There was a play where there was some contact between him and Randall, and SGA fell on the ground and had an expression of horror on his face and did not get the call, which I thought that was a fair result. But there were a couple other. Well, the NBA is played with so much force, so much power, so much physicality. I think it's almost I don't want to say impossible, but it's really challenging for a referee to call and officiate games and maintain some sort of pace or rhythm or flow to it. Mm-hmm. But I get upset when things like Draymond Green gets a technical. Okay? Then all of a sudden, he's got a license to even be more vociferous toward officials because he's like, they're not going to throw me out of the game.
Right.
It's almost like they swallow the whistles after they give him a technical win. In the game against the Wolves, I thought he deserved a second technical win. He was creating such a commotion away from the.
When Steph went down and he started freaking out. I
didn't even watch the technical foul being taken, the free throw being taken, because I was watching Draymond, who was walking out the midcourt, pointing at people. I was like, he's got to get tossed. He's got to get a second team. That's where the inconsistency drives me up the wall.
From Johnny Athletic, John Krasinski via Twitter. Chris Finch on player frustrations on SGA fouls. Quote,
you can't.
There was a lot of frustration out there. Okay, so that's during the game. We talked about that before the series started. That's predictable. We have to be able to put that to the side and get on with a next play mentality.
Look, the one thing I hope that the Wolves carry on with is that they've seen what they're facing in this series, and they've made adjustments in the first two levels. Now, this is the ultimate level. This is a 68-win team that averaged 12.9 point victories during the regular season, that forced the average of 7 turnovers a game. All right,
Preach.
They're stepping up in class here.
Yeah.
But they've shown an ability. Okay, we know what to do. We're going to figure this out. We're going to make adjustments, and they had in the first 2 rounds. This will be the ultimate test for them because they have to understand the importance of maintaining their rhythm and pace and flow. This team gets on the OKC gets on the run when they score like 12, 14, 16 consecutive points.
17-2 run late yesterday.
Exactly. You got to watch the turnovers. They're handsy. How many times I'm surprised how handsy they are and don't get more fouls called on them. But they figure out a way to chisel the ball away from, especially when Naz Reid and Julius Randle are backing guys down in the paint. The second guy's coming in, swiping at the ball. They got to understand the importance of moving the ball quickly, moving without the ball. And when they clog up the paint like they did against Ant and took away driving lanes, they got to move the spaces. And the Wolves' offense looks beautiful because it's predicated on hitting threes. And when it's not, it looks awful. So you can't stop being who you are. I get that.
But you're not 51 3 tries.
Right.
That's not who you are.
Right, that's a fair point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it got really crazy in the second half when they were chasing the game. When they started chasing the game, the threes were flying and missing.
Well,
so.
and now off what you said about the class of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Right.
So SGA and these phantom fouls or whatever. It now for me is the C topic because the A topic from the game, the capital A, is if you're going to shoot 51 threes and hit 29% of them. That's the A topic. I mean, because that's a lot of threes and a lot of misses there, man. So that's the A. The B for me now, and I should have said it more vociferously early in the show, is off that series you just had against Golden State and those players that were wheeling out there, specifically Jimmy Butler playing hurt and lacking engagement with his offensive game in the final 2 games. I mean, you're talking about, like, if it was horse racing, you're going from an allowance race to the Kentucky Derby. So, I mean, the level of competition, that the class jump, the class ascension the Timberwolves are on here is it's precipitous. So that plays into it, man. That's kind of like my B topic, Nords.
Yeah, the other thing, too, I didn't know it. I thought it was a strategic move to start Holmgren in the second half, but then I saw Isaiah Hartenstein had his back wrapped during the second half. So
Holmgren was a monster in that fourth quarter.
That's what I'm saying. Holmgren, he changed the game a little bit in the second half for them. He gave them some offense in the post, energy. And that dude, I get worried about him being kind of a string bean, but he's 7'1", with hops and a quick first step, and he's a problem.
Yep.
He's gonna drop little baby hooks over Randall all day long.
Awesome player.
See, but that's where and maybe I'm being too Pollyanna-esque on this thing is. Even the final score, and I'm not trying to be a Wolves apologist here, but Holmgren got a lot of his action in the fourth once it was very clear that Wolves were in desperation mode, more threes were coming, and they got a little bit lighter and smaller in the middle. You know, for me, an A topic in tomorrow night, and it was covered greatly by Dane during the first hour, I need more of Rudy on the court tomorrow night. I don't know how that works, how that looks. The 2 fouls early. If you're, it's so simplistic to go, well, look at the plus minus. But from that standpoint, Rudy was one of the better players overall in terms of clogging things up, slowing things down, and putting us in a better spot to keep the game ultimately where this squad was leading at the half. Rudy is, A, B, C, D. He's in those topics for me in terms of what needs to be different tomorrow night. Played like 22, 21 minutes last night. Yeah. And it has to be a heck of a lot more tomorrow.
I agree with that because Rudy gives them their defensive identity. Everything that the Wolves are about on that side of the ball is predicated on Rudy being on the floor. And I think in this series, with Hartenstein and Holmgren, Rudy's going to have to be a big factor in order to rim protect and just clog the lane and keep them from doing things in the paint. That also extends out to SGA because he's a master of the mid-range, and he's going to get to the elbow and do those elbow jumpers.
Hey.
And Rudy being 7'3", stifle Tower.
Well, he had a great moment last night, Lavelle, where he actually via switch got set up on SGA, and I forget who came over to help. But by nature of being so damn tall, they forced SGA into an awful shot. It was a clanker, and we were headed the other way. Rudy can do those sorts of things. He's not going to, I was joking earlier, he's not going to look great on the Euro step. You
can't throw him the ball when he's running.
You just can't.
It's
impossible, and maybe that's the right play, but it's not going to work.
Right.
Who Who do we want as a primary defender in SGA?
Well, see, it's impossible to say that in this day and age of the NBA.
Yeah.
Because there's so many switches. But see, Dane Moore had a tweet like 5-10 minutes ago, and I'm going to gravy train his video here and steal the take. It's an elite take because I saw it multiple times from Anthony Edwards last night at Dane Moore NBA, if you'd like to watch what I just saw when those guys were sharing thought. But now Rudy's not in the game, okay? So Ant is right wing opposite Isaiah Joe. And Isaiah Joe does one thing and one thing only. He shoots three-pointers. Mm-hmm. That's it. And he might go 0 for 6, or he might go 6 for 6, and he plays like 15 minutes a game, and that's all he does. He's a wonderful component for them who does one thing pretty well. So Ant's on Joe. SGA penetrates, beats the guy.
Yep.
And then, like Dane put, Edwards is going to have to battle his free will this series because he wants to sag off his guy and help. But he did that, and then SGA, Gilgeous-Alexander kicked it out to Isaiah Joe, wide open, the left side three, remember? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was all Ant. Yeah. I mean, it's not schematically sound for Anthony Edwards to leave his guy. It's either Naz Reid or whomever else was down there. They have to step up and make him make a different play.
Yeah.
You know?
Or
Rudy.
I actually felt Finch managed that for the most part. Into the game, it was kind of, well, it's got to be Jaden, and is that going to work? He's handsy. Is he going to get in foul trouble? Mm-hmm. I think in the end, via those switches you were mentioning, PA, I thought we managed who was physically on him. It was those other intricacies, like you mentioned, Ant getting caught in no man's land that led to some issues.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
See you soon. Lavelle Neal III at Lavelle Neal via X. When we return, final segment from the Omni, and we also will proclaim, we also will announce and unveil our Sioux Cup Manufacturing Fan and the Farm Talkback winner from today. Back after this.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
Welcome back. Final segment, 9 to noon, here at the Omni as part of the NFL owners' spring meetings. Tush push stays in, little tweak to the onside kick. Division championships still matter in the NFL. That's the NFL stuff, of course. Big thanks not only to Lavelle for joining, Dane Moore earlier in the show, president, co-owner Mark Wilf in the mix, Mike Florio.
Tushy
Pushy is part of today's show, covering at length last night's Game 1 loss, Wolves to the Thunder. It sounds like Brett PA, he's got a talk-back winner, courtesy of Sioux Cup Manufacturing. Somebody's going to get this sweet prize pack that includes a Carhartt cooler, Brewmate canteen, portable JBL speaker, coffee tumbler, hoodie, and Sioux Cup baseball cap. Brett, if you could, play us the winning talkback of the day.
I'm Trent Item, farming just north of Moorhead, Minnesota, and I am the GM in the John Deere. What we've seen from the Timberwolves in Game 1 was them taking the right shots, making the right plays. They're just not falling. We will regress to the mean. There will be an improvement in the three-point shooting. And just like My cohorts and I will not let you starve to death, not this year, not ever, and will not let us fail in Game 2.
Well, big thanks not only to Trent for listening to 9 to Noon, sending in that talkback, but to Sioux Cub Manufacturing for bringing us the tractor talkbacks this week and the super cool prize picks. Prize packs. Congratulations to Trent. And he hit it there. Maybe, the adjustments that take place from Game 1 to Game 2 as we're all patiently awaiting tomorrow night's festivities in OKC. You went for 51 from deep. You only made 15 of them. That's awful. 4 of 24, I think. The 3 preferred guys off the bench alone, that's a disaster. And if that changes, tomorrow night could look very different for the Howl.
Okay, so if you formulate the opinion, seen this movie, know how it ends.
Yeah.
And the example would be, didn't you see Game 1 against the Warriors? They missed 33. They had 31 points at halftime, and they didn't get close to cracking 100. And then what happened next? They came back and won 4 in a row.
Indeed.
Do you think that's a fair point?
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
I think this could be different.
Right.
But
Same.
But I'm with you.
All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everybody, here at the Omni for the hospitality. And mostly thank you for listening to 9 to Noon when you do. For Nordo and Brett Blakemore, I'm Paul Allen. Have a wonderful day.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.